Commission of the City of Muskegon for this Monday, August 8th of 2022. May we have roll call, please?
Mayor Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Hood? Absent. Commissioner Ramsey? Absent. Vice Mayor German?
Here.
Commissioner Gorman?
Here.
Commissioner Emery?
Here.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Here.
Excellent, thank you. First up, we have our farmers market presentation. I see some lovely familiar faces in the audience as part of this presentation.
Yes. I'm going to go ahead and get it started if that's okay.
All right.
So I was asked by the City Commission if we could give an update of just where we are with the farmers market. And I've got, there we go, presentation for you. So the farmers market opened at its newest location in May of 2014. The market is the second largest outdoor market in Michigan. The market also has 164 booths and it operates year-round. Staffing, we have one full-time market manager, one contracted kitchen manager, one part-time office manager, one part-time EBT tokens, and one cleaning person who works 12 hours a week.
And could you introduce them or invite them to introduce themselves?
I would love to do that. They are right here. Yes, yes. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm the new market manager.
Our new market manager, Lisa Potter.
Yay!
Welcome and congrats.
And I'm Renee Hustling, and I manage the
Yeah.
I'm Dawn Coon, and I am market hospital.
Wonderful. Well, good to see you all, and thank each of you for your contributions to our market. Much appreciated. All right, now we're going to learn more all about the great things that are happening at our market.
That's right. That's right. So it is the second largest outdoor market in the state of Michigan. Our market has been around for over 100 years. It's easily accessible, and it is the anchor of downtown. And it provides low barrier entry points for new farmers, ranchers, and food entrepreneurs, allowing them to start small and test new products. So we partner up with our kitchen, and so people that make things there get to go in there. For every dollar of nutrition incentives spent on farm direct purchases, farm direct purchases such as at a farmer's market is estimated to result in a contribution of up to $3 to the U.S. economy. The pandemic attracted new longtime farmers market customers. According to consumer research, 31% of the new to farmers market shopping during COVID were still shopping there 5 months later. Growers selling locally create 13 full-time farm operator jobs per $1 million in revenue earned. Those that do not sell locally create only 3, and people value local food more than ever before. So our fees for our seasonal and what we have been collecting, I've listed all of them there, but through July 26th, we've collected $52,109, and the breakdown is there too, so you can see the breakdown for seasonal rates. And we have been incrementally increasing them every year to try to get to where we need to be to break even. The breakdown of seasonals, you can see where the numbers are. So for farmers, we have 26, food artisans, we have 12, concessions 1, crafters 14, meat 4, the wine and beer 5, flowers, plants are 5, and then we have 1 other. So what that means with seasonal, once a vendor becomes a seasonal, they are guaranteed their spot for the rest of their life. So it's kind of a big deal to get one of those, and we don't usually give out a lot of them. In fact, we want to cut down. The farmers will always get it after they are there for a year because it is a farmer's market, so we think that's important. But some of the others we might cut down just a little bit. We think we are a little bit high on crafters, where maybe we should stick to like 12. And we do have a waiting list, so once somebody falls off, then we can put somebody else there.
So just to make sure I understand that correctly, when you say for the rest of their life, that's if they return each year.
Yes.
So if they drop off and they decide not to return 1 year, then they go back.
Correct. There is a part where in some cases, and it's written down that if they drop out for a year and they pay their rent for the entire year, they can take 1 year off and still keep their spot. But if they don't come back the following year, they lose their spot.
Okay. So they try to be accommodating.
Yes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
The fees for dailies. So the farmers market through July, we've collected $26,419. and that breakdown is over there too. So Saturday is $36. This year we did something different. They really wanted to see more advertising in our committee. They had talked about that. Commissioner Emery is in that. So what we had decided is that we would match them dollar for dollar. So now they're paying $1 every week to go towards advertising, and we're matching them. And the breakdown of the dailies. So we have farmers, we have 4 of those, food artisans 24, concessions 4, crafters 18, meat 2, flowers and plants 3. So we have 55 regular dailies currently. So for the winter market, in 2022, we collected $11,310. And the spots right there explain how much we charge for each of those. And the flea market, right now we have collected $13,038 through July 26th, and those fees are $10, $12, and $15 depending on the spot. And we had just increased that this year. So for SNAP and EBT, we this year so far, we have given out $68,404 and redeemed $66,713 through July 26th. Last year, we were doing the $50 tokens. Right now, we're doing 20 because it's the limit of it. But last year, we collected $207,114. And every single one of those tokens have to be counted. Every dollar, they're either $1 or $2. So every single one of those, this team has to count for all of these programs. So they spend a lot of hours each week just counting. The Double Up food bucks, they have sold this year so far 61,936 and redeemed 56,318. The match right now, as I said, is $20 again. Senior Power Produce, you've all heard me talking about that and how big that's been.
Madam Clerk.
Yeah, you were there.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But before we go into this, could you just explain to the commission and anyone at home what Double Up Food Bucks is, how that works, who can benefit from it?
Absolutely. So anybody who has an EBT bridge card can bring it in, and we can scan $20, and for that $20, we can give you an additional $20 that can be spent on fruits and vegetables that are Michigan grown only. And so that's like completely free money to them. And then the other $20 they can spend on, the breads and the pies and all of that too, as well as they can also, of course, purchase fruits and vegetables as well.
Okay.
It's an awesome program.
So the Double Up piece is the extra $20.
Yes.
That's just for Michigan grown fruits and vegetables. And qualifying individuals can get that extra $20 every week?
They can do it every day that the market is open.
Every day.
So that would be Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays.
Okay.
They can do that, yes. And they can even just collect them and then just shop on Saturday if they want to, but just stop by the market and get those.
And so those silver
Yes.
EBT
Yes.
is good throughout the year then?
Yes, they do not expire.
Okay. Oh, so they can be carried over. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent.
That was
Thank
a
you.
great question. So the Senior Power Produce, through July 26, we had redeemed 6,527, but I know I've been talking to Morning, and we think the program will be done in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And this year we have $90,000 to give out. We are having the biggest turnout ever. I believe last week we serviced over 1,500 seniors in line. I don't know if you were at that one, but
I was there.
yeah. It's a
growing
lot.
and growing and growing.
Yes. And our office spent hours today just counting and creating more of those coupons because we were running out. So great program again. Senior Project Fresh is another program in 2022. We've done $615 last year. In 2021, it was $2,518. So with all of those programs that I just mentioned, we do charge a 5% fee to the farmers when they are returning those. It's a 5% admin fee. And that helps us to pay staff who is counting, again, several thousands of dollars in tokens and coupons and all of these programs that we keep track of. Another one is Kids Power Produce. Right now, we've done $3,373 through July 26. and we usually register about 1,000 children, and we were giving out $2 in tokens, but this year we decided to raise that to $4 because we were fortunate enough to receive some money to do that, thanks to CDBG and through Alcoa, who gave us the funding. We have 700 children that are registered. About 200 of them show up each week, and they can use the $4 to purchase fresh fruits and vegetables. And the reason we do that is to promote healthy eating and hopefully future shoppers. So event rentals are actually doing really, really well. The market staff has been doing fantastic, and you can see that through July 26th, they did $6,512 in rentals, which is the highest we've ever had. So token fees that we've collected, that's what we were just talking about. So in 2022, $4,962. That's before then we were doing 2%. So as we're trying to work on that budget, we did increase it, and we talked to other farmers markets to see what they were doing and found that 5% was not unreasonable. So, but that's only through the July date.
Question there.
Yes.
Yeah. What is the fee for the event rental? I didn't see anything on there.
Oh, I believe it's $250.
That's the base for the bar, and there's other things they can. The room set up, tables and chairs set up, there's plenty of that. But it starts at $250 for the bar itself.
And
Rent other areas outside too.
I think the stage is $50. I believe. I believe. Yeah. So there's different parts of the outdoor market too that we rent out.
okay, and bartenders, you said about
Yes.
$50, and they have to have a liquor license or
We have a
special-
liquor license,
okay.
but that's why we have to use our own bartenders, and we
Oh,
have
great.
to order the
Okay,
liquor.
that was
Right.
the next question. Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. So we run several city events there, and these are just some of the pictures. Farm to Table, our Halloween event, that happens to be my favorite, and food truck rallies. Those are just some of the events that we do. We also have Fall Harvest event that is also a lot of fun. So now I'm going to have Renee is going to go up, and she is going to cover Kitchen 242 for us. I have to tell you, Renee is passionate and has been awesome and just wonderful to work with all these years. She washes a lot of dishes and does a lot of cleaning.
So the kitchen opened a year after the market did. So in 2015, we actually opened because we had to get equipment and all of that, which we were, fortunate. We got a nice grant to cover a lot of the cost of that equipment, but we also had donations from Mercy Health at the time. So, the kitchen provides a really low risk, low cost space for food startup businesses, and we've had a few that are already in business that come in and use the kitchen as well, like an area restaurant that may be doing a festival and they don't have room in their own kitchen, so they've come and used the kitchen as well over the years. We belong to, there's a Michigan network of commercial kitchens, and there's about 12 of them around the state, so we belong to that and we're active in that group, and that's kind of how I keep a pulse on how much the other kitchens are charging, what are their policies, how are they, moving tenants along so that they're not, because it gets pretty comfortable in a low-cost space. So how, and that's one of the challenges we have is how do you keep them moving along so they get out into their own bricks and mortar at some point. So currently we have 23 businesses that are working out of the kitchen, and that's the most we've ever had. Not all of them are equally active. We've got some that are in the very beginning stages and trying to figure out their, supply and demand and all of that. I did put a breakdown in there of the diversity mix because I think that's important, and I do get asked that question every once in a while. So we've got 16 of those 23 are women-owned, and 3 of those women-owned are owned by African-American women. We've got 2 African-American male, 1 Hispanic, and 1 veteran-owned. So, 1 Hispanic, and 1 veteran-owned. So, 1 African-American male, 1 Hispanic, and 1 veteran-owned. So, 1 African-American male, 1 Hispanic, and 1 veteran-owned. So, 1 African-American male, 1 Hispanic, and 1 veteran-owned. So, 1 African-American male, 1 Hispanic, and 1 veteran-owned. So, 1 African-American male, 1 Hispanic, and 1 veteran-owned. So, 1 African-American male, 1 Hispanic, and 1 veteran-owned. So, 1 African-American male, 1 Hispanic, and 1 veteran-owned. So, 1 African-American male, 1 Hispanic, and 1 veteran-owned. So, 1 African-American male, 1 Hispanic, and 1 veteran-owned. So, 1 We've had some successes that have already moved out into their own. Currently, we have 3 that, the one that we all probably know the best is the Only Cannoli. But we have the Bodie Tree Juice Company, which has a storefront in Grand Haven, and then Ebby's Pet Supply, which has a storefront in Spring Lake. We also have, the kitchen is used as a teaching kitchen. This past year, Muskegon Community College has used it for a food science class. So in, one evening a week, they've got I think about 16 students that are taking that class. So they're in there once a week using the kitchen. And then for a number of years, we've also hosted North Muskegon schools in their spring semester. They have some unusual classes. So they have a world cooking class, and their French teacher brings her group of students in for that class twice a week during the lunchtime hours. So they shop the market sometimes and then cook their lunch. And then we're also supporting a few of the food businesses that are at the chalets, the Western Market chalets. I think we've got 3 of them that are either just using us as storage, or they're also cooking in the kitchen and then serving out of their chalet. Next slide. So some of the challenges, how to get that right mix of entrepreneurs in there, because, we've got quite a few caterers right now, and they all want Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So how do you balance that? So it's interesting challenges, good challenges to have, but it sometimes can be a little bit, challenging because they all want Thursday, Friday, Saturday every week. Enforcing the rules. I can almost guarantee that a couple times a week I'm going to get a text message with pictures attached that so-and-so didn't clean up after themselves. So, and we pride ourselves in keeping the kitchen as clean as possible. And I already mentioned, when do you nudge those makers to the next level? And I know I keep a close eye on what the Eastern Market does in their kitchens, because how they handle that is, and they've got like 5 kitchens. So they increased their due or their fees. Like the second year, they get charged more. The third year, they get charged more. I mean, we haven't had the luxury of being totally at capacity yet. But they've been doing that quite a while. They're the only kitchen I know that does that. So, storage space, we're always having, the market as well. We can always use more storage space, but our freezer is maxed out, and the cooler usually is too, the walk-in cooler. Some of the risk that we don't have lock space within our cooler or freezer, so there is a potential of food contamination that could happen if someone wasn't being careful. We don't worry about it too much that it's intentional, but that is a risk, especially when we are also allowing others to come in that maybe aren't our regular makers that work out of the kitchen. But we had, a couple weeks ago, we had someone renting the barn, and then they ended up taking over the kitchen too. And, so there's a risk when people, like that are using the kitchen as well. We are inspected by MDARD, Michigan Department of Rural Agriculture and Rural Development, and the Health Department. The Health Department inspects us twice a year, and we have a really good working relationship with them. They refer people to us all the time. Probably that's where most referrals that use the kitchen come from, is the Health Department. Equipment wear and tear. We're now getting to the point where we've had to replace a food processor. We had several small food processors that we purchased with grant money, and small mixers and blenders. And I think we purchased 6 of each, and we're down to like 4 working blenders. And food processors, I think we were down to 2. So we did actually purchase a large commercial food processor this past year. And then we had to replace one of our reach-in coolers recently too, with the one that was donated by the hospital. Currently, our invoicing process happens after the use of the kitchen. So, like at the end of, or beginning of the, I'll be doing July billing like this week. Sometimes that can be a challenge too because, they're using it after the fact, and I'm the collections department when that happens too. And then just regular maintenance of equipment. We get inspected by the fire department. There's just regular maintenance that we have to keep up with. So I'm probably going to, I've got it sketched out, a increased cost structure. We have not increased our prices since we opened the kitchen 7 years ago. Again, I keep a pulse on what the other kitchens are doing. Our closest competitors are the Starting Block in Hart and the Grand Rapids Downtown Market Kitchen. We're dead right on with the costs that Hart charges, but we're way below what Grand Rapids charges. And I kind of surveyed all of the kitchens that were on our last call, and us and Hart are probably the least expensive in the state of Michigan. So I'm going to bring forward a proposed schedule to change that a little bit. We want to redo our website. We've had a fair amount of media attention, mainly because of the culinary classes that we were holding, and just improve our ability to connect the makers with the resources that they need to have a successful business, and then more storage space, which I have no idea what that looks like, but.
I'll do it, yep. So now we worry about our competitors and what they're doing because we like to be the best at what we're doing right now. So we've been watching Grand Haven, Holland, and Spring Lake and seeing what they're up to. Spring Lake Farmers Market just built this over there. As you can see, that's an actual picture of their farmers market, their indoor, which we think is beautiful. Some of our challenges right now that we have, dogs in the market, if you haven't heard about that. We really could use additional help. All of those hundreds of thousands of coins being counted constantly take up a lot of staff time. Maintenance costs, because the building is 9 years old now, things are breaking down and it just, it's not brand new anymore. The market is not currently self-sustaining. I feel like we're getting closer to it. I don't have the numbers for this year, but it's not there. Lack of storage, as Renee said, and lack of physical room for growth. We don't really have, unless we go up, I don't really see a lot of room that we can grow with all the traffic we have over there. The winter market doesn't currently make enough in the winter, but it's very important to those farmers who are there. That is what gets them through, so we continue to do that. So we run at a little bit of a deficit in the financial stability, as we just talked about. The aging farmer population, so a lot of our farmers are in their 80s and 90s, and they don't seem to have children that plan on taking over, so we always worry about that. And the changing demands of consumers wanting more ready-to-eat foods. So future goals, upgrade the website, increase the social media presence, offering canning classes, utilize student interns to enhance or offer new programming. Rapid market survey, we did one of those in 2015. I think that was through MSU, and that provided a lot of really good information. And we have been really studying a food hall, which is very popular in bigger farmers markets such as ourselves. So the food hall vision would be renovate and convert our indoor facility right now and make it more into a multi-purpose room. And we could have small vendors in there. And we're looking more at like the restaurants and food oriented. But if we couldn't fill it all, then we would look at others. But we would like to, our goal is to put it with food. And then it would be more of a year-round use of the barn, and it would bring in a monthly income to the farmers market that we think could actually make the farmers market break even, and the creation of permanent leases, so they would have, a lease for like a year, on it. So then we would know that it would be more reliable than just seeing who shows up. And then that would also help Kitchen 242 as well there. And we could offer, I'm going to show you the next drawing, like a small little grocery store. It's not going to take care of the needs of downtown. I don't want to pretend that. But it would be a place where somebody could come and pick up fresh produce, possibly a gallon of milk or something, for those people that live right down there who just want to run across the street and get something. So this is the barn concept that was drawn for us. And this is like a 3D rendering, but you can see those individual spots there. Let me see. So like this would be a food vendor, food vendor, food vendor. So you can see all of those. We could have a bar in here. That would be the city's liquor license. Down here, down the middle, would be like people who are currently like the honeys and the jams and breads and stuff that are being made in Kitchen 242 that we could potentially sell. We would have, something worked out with them for that. But all of these could potentially be restaurants, and then we would have a seating area that families could come in and they could pick from individual restaurants. From these pop-up shops. I'm thinking of like Rolling Stone right now would be a perfect example for somebody to be in here. And then they could sit in the middle and they could get a drink if they wanted to, and the whole family could get what they wanted but still be together. And that is it.
Nice.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Commissioners, do you have any questions or remarks with regard to our wonderful farmers market in Kitchen 242?
Just more of a comment. It's really good to see farmers market, growing and moving the way it has over the years. I guess, one question I would have is about the wear and tear that was mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
How much is that? Is that coming for city funds that would have to be allocated to help out, or?
If the farmers market budget doesn't have the funds to cover it, then it would be coming from the general fund. We are doing everything we can to prevent that, but we just had to add heating and air conditioning, which the city commission approved, and that was $25,000. We had a couple of appliances that died on us that Ken approved that we needed to purchase, that we needed those right away. That's why I like this barn concept, which we don't have a price actually on this, and I'm hoping that we can get some grants for it. But we think it's going to be, the estimate that we thought was like $300,000 or $400,000. I don't know if you noticed too that all these glass doors, all the doors would be turned into glass, which we think would be really great to let in light. And we noticed that that's what they did in Spring Lake before we even saw Spring Lakes. So it's the same idea, but. Totally understand the concern, but it's like City Hall or DPW or any of our other buildings, it's going to get wear and tear as it gets older.
Right.
Yeah.
And just one other thing,
Sure.
Clerk. And I know you're quite busy because you work with that and oversee that. Then, thought about you with the elections, and I see how busy you are. I'm just wondering, by those duties that you have, do you have enough staff to manage and to do all the things that you do in your operations? That's been a concern. We don't want to see you over, stressed and not enough help. So would that be a concern of yours?
It's been a big concern of mine.
Oh, really?
And I have brought that up, yes, that I need more help, but I know that funds are not available right now, and so we haven't been able to get it, so we've been just doing the best we can.
Okay. Well, I guess that's something to talk to the city manager about now. Would that be something that we could do to assist and accommodate? Clerk probably not talk about it here or whatever, but that's something that I think we probably need to look at to make sure that my clerk is fully staffed and able to do her job at a 100% efficiency rate that better serves the community.
Absolutely, and we've been having those conversations all along.
Oh, okay.
And we'll keep having them.
Yeah. Okay, and would that keep the commission posted, or let us know what's going on and how we could better assist and make sure that our directors or clerks have the manpower and female power that they need to do their job? Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, and certainly something that we can carry forward as we do our quarterly reforecast. So the next reforecast for the first quarter budget, is there flexibility to provide additional resources to it? We certainly have a lot of priorities and also challenges and needs and competing demands on our scarce resources, but we certainly want our clerk and our farmers market to be adequately supported. And our clerk's office and everyone at the farmers market just does phenomenal work. Just so grateful for going above and beyond, not only in the day-to-day clerk's office and elections responsibility, but with managing the farmers market, making sure that it remains open and serving our residents. The kitchen 242, I just love that aspect of our farmers market, and I'm so grateful for Renee, your management of that for so many years, and you certainly go above and beyond. You know what the contract entails, and you're always being so helpful and joyful in helping our tenants in Kitchen 242. And Dawn, I'm just really appreciative of you, coming to work and supporting that market week in and week out, and Lisa in your new leadership role there as well. Grateful for that, and to all of our city staff, because we do a number of events, the food truck rallies and the dining at dark, and a number of other events at the farmers market, which is volunteer powered, and it's often our staff who are giving of their time to volunteer to make these events possible. And the intent with the events is to generate revenue to make our market more sustainable. So we don't necessarily have to dip into our general fund so much to make the market sustainable. That's something that I had been keen on more so in the past when we first opened the market, and it was told, I wasn't on the commission at the time, but it was told to the community that this was not going to be require additional revenue or additional resources from the city, that it would become sustainable. And so I was more keen on it earlier in my tenure on the commission of let's make this sustainable. But I think it is just a phenomenal asset to our community, particularly living in a city that's a food desert. And so I'm not as insistent necessarily on it being self-sustaining or revenue neutral. Certainly we want to get there, and we're going to make those efforts to do so, and in the improvements necessary to keep sustainable. But I'm not necessarily as diehard, yes, we got to get this to break even. Certainly that is our long-term goal, but it provides a great asset. Going to the visions and the goals that you were mentioning, I just want to add a few more. Because closed mouths don't get fed. And so
Got my pen.
I just want to share, I still would love to see solar panels on our market roofs, and certainly it'd be great if we can get Wi-Fi added to our farmers market.
We agree.
And then if I recall, I'm hearing some concerns from market vendors over the years is gutters. And the rain falling them. So just want to highlight a few of those capital improvements that I think would be help enhance our market.
Yes. Those are all three that we agree with and hear about often. It's just a matter of finances. Yep.
Yeah. And so that may be something we'll have to look at. I mean, if we can get grant dollars, or if we can identify some other resources to go to that. And I'm not trying to spend the dollars already, but I know we do also have an ARPA presentation coming up. I don't know if that's, maybe where we want to go is use a little bit of those resources. And then I know that we do also have other federal grant dollars out there to support some of the work that we're doing at the market. But Commissioner St. Clair, do you have any input or questions with regard to our market at this time?
I have a comment and a question. I love the farmers market. That is one of my very favorite places in the whole city, and I'm down there a lot. And I'm continually blown away by the hard work and what a neat community is down there. I would concur with the mayor that I think of this more as a service that we provide than as a thing that needs to generate revenue, and I think we need to support it until it can support itself, because We are in a food desert, and that's really important that people have access to fresh food. My question is on the market, on the barn renovation, would that exclude that from being used for rentals with the reconfiguration?
Yes. Yes, it would.
So then that would have
Right.
another economic impact.
It would, yes. This year we made just over $6,000, which is the most we've ever made. But consistently, if we had those 8 or 10 spaces, if they're making $500 each, times 10, that could be potentially, $5,000 a month that we could
Okay.
make in the barn, plus the liquor license and the sales of alcohol we would make.
So it would cost a little upfront, but it would be
Right.
a generator
Yes.
pretty immediately.
Yes, yes. And we do want to thank, so if anybody doesn't know, Commissioner St. Clair's husband has been running the music, Kwame, for many years at the farmers
Years,
market.
the whole
He's
time.
volunteered his time
Oh, wow.
for getting the bands on the stage. Every single Saturday he is there, and we appreciate that so much.
I will pass that
Yes,
along
it
to
is.
him. I roadie for him quite often on that stuff.
That's phenomenal.
And sometimes I suggest bands. So, but the rest of it is all him, and he does it out of love. So,
Excellent. Commissioner Emery or Commissioner Groman, do you have any questions or comments at this time?
No, I'm good.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you again, Madam Clerk, and thank you, Dawn, Renee, Lisa, and everyone that is involved with the sustainability and operations of our farmers market in Kitchen 242. Much appreciated. And Madam Clerk, can you please share that presentation with the commission so that
Absolutely.
those that weren't able to be here tonight can still see that information? All right,
Yes, I
excellent.
will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice on the website too. Might be nice on the website too.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Post it on the website as well.
I can do
You're
that,
welcome.
yes.
Yeah. Next up, we got an update on the city's ARPA allocation. Welcome.
A fun topic this evening. Spend some dollars. Since before I was last with you in February, just wanted to provide an update to you all on the dollars that the commission had approved and committed, and provide a little bit more context on some thoughts that staff has had regarding just the remaining dollars that we have here. If the commission, the clerk could bring up the cover sheet. I just wanted to refer to a couple of things on the cover sheet,
Oh, it'll take me a minute.
unless you have it in front of you. Do you have it in front of you? Okay.
oh, I do, but I don't know that anyone else does.
Yeah, probably do it this way faster. How about you?
I have just five items on the cover sheet while the clerk gets it. Infill housing, West Urban Properties. Since earlier this year, a subrecipient agreement has been signed, and invoices have been turned in by Mr. Duzendang for reimbursement of, or actually allocation of our city's share of those dollars. Of the $4.275 million that's been committed, minus the August receipts thus far, $1.8 million of that 4.275 has been provided to West Urban. Subrecipient for the public versus a beneficiary agreement, subrecipient agreement required by U.S. Treasury for work that's conducted on behalf of the city or recipient versus a beneficiary agreement such as the Boys and Girls Club, Muskegon Museum of Art, and the Frohenthal Center are considered beneficiary, and so we have both a beneficiary agreement and a subrecipient agreement with the parties that that we have here. So in the case of West Urban Properties and Community Encompass, they are considered a subrecipient, as we all know, and so those agreements have been signed and dollars have been expended. And I just wanted to draw your attention to the bottom three, where we have, or actually Boys and Girls Club Museum and the Frohenthal, the dollars on that full award have been expended thus far. So, is there any questions on that table? I know certainly you've seen this before and you've committed these dollars.
I guess
I have a couple of my colleagues here who can answer some other questions maybe on that table on other items if you do have questions.
Yeah, I was just curious with regard to the convention center. I see that it shows budgeted, and I'm just wondering, are we not fully wrapped up with that yet? We still have some outstanding, or have we spent all that?
2.5 million was transferred to the convention center fund as of last fiscal year. So we did transfer that, but we still have some convention fund things to wrap up, and we will potentially have some like electricity and things like that. But the build out of the convention center is pretty much over.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Maybe if Ann can scroll down a little bit, so the public can see the current balance of uncommitted funds. Should be maybe on that second page. So you're a little over $6.3 million today of uncommitted American Rescue Plan Act dollars that the city has been awarded as it stands today. I included a couple different percentages of how we've allocated the dollars or how you've committed. So almost a quarter of the dollars have been committed to infill housing initiatives. That's been a critical issue across the city. So just in the context of percentages and benchmarks and things of that nature, just so you can see where we're at and how those dollars have been spent. And certainly that would be included on a dashboard, Mayor, as we certainly build out the website and put that kind of information on there. And then as well as almost, I'd say between 10 and 13% have been committed to at least the current nonprofits that the commission has, one received and two committed. So just wanted to point that out as well. Beyond that, I just wanted to spend a little bit of time to talk about some other ancillary issues as it affects and impacts your decision and our recommendations to you on the remaining ARP dollars that we have here. And you were very gracious back in February to allow us to continue to pursue other state and federal grant opportunities, which we continue to do by way of our a new project management team that Manager Mike Sell has convened to talk about our 6 to 10 year long range goals and expectations and where our city's finances are and things of that nature. Areas such as developing plans that we continue to work on for our local parks and our beach parking revenue, our local street system, Hartshorn Marina, things of that nature. So a lot of those type of discussions continue to happen and develop some recommendations. I will say that we're starting to coalesce or narrow down some of those thought processes that to a point here in the next couple of months where we can come to you with a recommendation on some ideas on how to maybe spend those remaining dollars, as well as we continue to receive community requests for those funds as well. And we continue to, not as many as we had earlier this year, but there's one or two that Manager Mike Sell and I have visited with, and many of which I'm sure you may have heard from as well. So tomorrow evening, you will hear from CNS Director Sharonda Carson, one item that we're not really expecting to have to come to you on as it relates to allocating some of the unexpended dollars. And it's a new MISHDA, a My Hope grant. That's a $10 million grant that was just released about a month and a half ago. They have a deadline of August 15th to apply and identify committed funds for an energy-oriented home repair program across the county for low-income folks to assist them with energy-efficient home upgrades and repairs. So it's an opportunity I think we can pursue. Although a match was not required, we'd like to apply for the minimum $1 million grant and add to, for your consideration tomorrow evening, another $150,000. $50,000 of that would be for administration, and another $100,000 would be for additional programming beyond the $1 million. So Director will explain a little bit more of that tomorrow night in depth for your consideration, but I just wanted, I was not expecting that back in February that we would be coming to you maybe as soon to spend some of those ARP dollars, but maybe it's a low enough dollar, but a great program that we really don't want to miss out on, 10 times worth of that investment. So I just wanted to tee that up for tonight, and then they'll talk a little more in depth with you tomorrow evening. So.
All right.
As far as continued community engagement, like we talked about earlier in the year, our website is this close, which we're really excited about. I think you'll be very pleased with our selection of photos and content, and certainly the dashboard and other pieces that will come maybe after that's launched for purposes of this particular topic. So we have some ideas on how we compartmentalize that and show that to the public, and but may not come as soon as we want, but we're going to get that thing launched. Three other items as it relates to our continued pursuit of federal dollars through the infrastructure grant opportunities that Director Evans and his staff and I continue to work on as it relates to pursuing other dollars for, there's a Safe Streets and Roads program as it relates to regional safety action plans, traffic safety practices that we're thinking about and pursuing. Another one is that you may have seen a Reconnecting Communities grant through U.S. Department of Transportation, which is a longer-term grant that I think really relates to the Shoreline Drive pilot study and really what can come of that and what that could look like. We're looking at maybe pursuing those funds in year 2 of that program. So I think our ARP dollars could assist in that effort, but at the same time, we're also pursuing that as a longer term grant opportunity. As it relates to just a sort of a final item, at the state level, there's 2 items. One, a Michigan Spark grant, which is part of the state's infrastructure bill that was unveiled months ago. And so through that $65 million was available for local parks across the state. There's 3 rounds that's expected. $15 million could be available by the end of 2022, $25 million by the end of, or the spring of 23, and another $25 million in the summer of 23. The first round, this first $15 million bucket, we expect that application will be released late summer, early fall. So some of the ideas and some of the thoughts that our project management team has discussed as it relates to other issues, this particular local parks grant opportunity could fit into or alleviate the need for some of our dollar expenditures. So we're really excited about that opportunity. That it's not a lot of money, but you can apply. The minimum request is $100,000 and the max was $1 million. So not a lot of money in this first $15 million round, but we will pursue that going forward. And then the second item is related to the MEDC's revitalization and placemaking grant, and we're expecting at least some level of feedback in the next few weeks from the MEDC on the 3 projects that we pursued relative to Lakeview Lofts, 881st, and a downtown placemaking project, which is Thayer and the Arena and Western Avenue. So I mentioned those things just in the sense that as we talk internally about some of the project ideas and some of the things that a Michigan Spark grant could fund or some of these RAP grants could fund, we want to continue to work with you and hopefully in the next couple of months come to you with a proposal on some areas that we think can invest and benefit the community. So National League of Cities, just wanted to mention that the Grant Navigator program that we're a participant in, it's a little bit different program than what I maybe first envisioned. There seems to be a lot of onus on the municipalities to identify their own priorities and their own grant opportunities. We continue to pursue many of the things that they're asking us to consider. So it's a good program, I think, that we can rely on them if need be, but it's a little bit different than I think as we've gotten into that. But it's a good, we're satisfied with where we're at with that at the moment. So with that, that's a Cliff Notes version of where we're at with 22 million. Actually 16 million that you have left. So happy to answer any questions that the Mayor Commissioners may have.
Thank you, Director Wills.
Yes, sir.
Commissioners, any questions or remarks at this time? Vice Mayor German.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Director Willis. So we're right now 16.5 million to work with. And as you stated, the full awarded expanded funds for museum, Fawn Center, and the Boys and Girls Club, those dollars have already been awarded, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. And I guess, have you gotten a report of what the impact of those dollars have done for those organizations?
So for both the subrecipient and the beneficiary agreements, we have those documents in place, and each quarter we will be expecting that very type of information, and which we can share with the commission.
Okay, great.
So we have an annual report expectation in that document, but we do expect them on a quarterly basis to share that kind of information with us.
Right, that's good to know. Okay, and as you stated in your presentation, what's been proposed here or shown to the commission, and you'll be coming back, and there may be other entities or you know, groups out there seeking funds. I think we talked about possible grants or something like that before. Was that, you recall any language on that, where these new organizations, such as nonprofit organizations, churches, are seeking additional funds to sustain and you know, also stay in business? Where are you with that? And has there been any conversation with staff in looking to propose something like that?
I think that's available for further conversation and actually direction from the commission.
Yeah.
You can see 16.3 million. You know, generally, we're absolutely maintaining consistency with the commission goals as we develop the initial staff list that we had earlier this year, and then as you end a budget year and you begin another budget year and you have certain budget pressures and things that you don't count on or can't expect, and different kind of conversations come up. So absolutely, we'd like to entertain some level of conversation on that, but at the same time, I would defer to you as well on some of your ideas.
Yeah.
What a grant program could look like.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, earlier this year, there was some level of appetite amongst the commission to have some sort of grant program for our nonprofits throughout the community to be able to potentially apply and access. At the same time, the commission had decided to essentially put a pause on allocating or committing any further ARPA dollars, so we had time and also allow our staff capacity to be focused on identifying resources that are available through the state and federally that might be able to support our priorities, and so that we could try to capture those outstanding dollars first, narrow that down, and then we can see what gaps are left to then use our remaining, which is right now expected to be approximately $6.3 million remaining. So just to give some additional context for folks that, everyone on the commission and staff in this room understand that process, but folks at home may not. So I'm just trying to give a little bit more context as to our process and where we've gone and where we anticipate going as well. So thank you, Vice Mayor German.
Thank you, man.
Just have one caveat. I know Director Evans in the last couple weeks has come to you with a request for proposal relative to the conversion process on a number of grant encumbered projects across Muskegon Lake. We're very mindful of the impact as we get into this year and next that will have on our desire and interest in applying for some DNR related grants, and whether that will, based on their criteria, if in an open conversion on a grant assisted parcels, if that will be negatively impacted and we won't be able to either apply or be approved for. So that was something maybe we didn't know a month ago, 2 months ago, so as it relates to the remaining balance, we're mindful of those kind of considerations as we try to hone in on some of those recommendations to you. So it's a big caveat.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. Commissioners, any additional questions or comments at this time? All right, thank you, Director Wills, for the update. Appreciate the insights. All right, next up, we've got Parks Donation Policy. DPW Director Leo Evans, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. What you have before you tonight is a draft policy that we put together to try to standardize and formalize the policy to make a donation to city parks. When I say that, 95% of the requests we get are for benches at Pere Marquette Park or benches along the channel or something of that extent. We do get a few others that are, we'd like to plant a tree here or, maybe a bench downtown, something like that. When Matt took over, he was handed a list. I think it was like 65 people long waiting list that wanted benches at Pere Marquette Park. There was no way we were ever going to get to those people. We have nowhere near enough room for 65 people. So we wanted to really try to incentivize people to maybe make an investment in a different area of the city, or and also really one of the big things we wanted to capture is put a sunset clause on a donation, because previously they've been treated that they exist in perpetuity. So if you donated a bench 40 years ago, the expectation is that the city will maintain that bench. It'll be there forever. And we don't think that's the reasonable route to go forward. That puts a large burden on the city. So this policy really tries to hit on those things. I guess just to back up, the pre-existing donations, what we're proposing is if you made a donation prior to a policy being put into place, that donation would remain until such time that it requires replacement, and then we would reach out to the original donor, offer them a chance to renew their donation. If not, we would offer it to another person that wants to make a donation in the area. So this isn't to say that, you know, we're going to decide one day that your bench needs to come down and we're going to sell that spot, but when that bench is worn down and the bolts are broken off and the paint is stripped or it's snagging people's clothes and it has to be replaced, then we give that person a chance to either renew their donation or let somebody else into that space. Another thing about our old policy and our old way of handling these is we would require the donor to essentially purchase the bench, but then all of the other ancillary costs, such as installing the pad, installing the bench itself, were things that the city bore in themselves. So we would like to revise that so that a donation includes the full cost to purchase, install, and maintain that facility throughout its life, which will be quite a bit more. You know, a typical bench runs somewhere in the range of like $1,200 for the style that we use. We probably have, you know, by the time you do concrete and staff time into that, we probably have $3,000 into that bench installation to put one out there. One other thing we did propose that was a little bit different, I mentioned that 95% of our requests are for benches in Pure Marquette. We did include a clause in here, basically if you want to make a donation in one of those popular places, we're going to charge you double the cost of that and use that extra money to put a bench somewhere else in the city that might not receive a donation. So that could, you know, either that could really encourage somebody that wants a bench there to make sure we're also supporting amenities elsewhere, or the hope is that it gets people to open up and say, hey, maybe I want to put a bench along the bike path, or I want to put a bench, you know, downtown or something else. We do allow the donors to request a location, but we do kind of defer to the Park and Recreation Director and or the engineering department to make an assessment of if that's the right location. We don't intend to maintain an active list of here's the 10 spots we have available. We want to work with whoever wants to work with us on these programs. And the last thing I guess I'll say is that for any new donation, we would kind of establish a term for that donation to say your bench, we'll maintain your bench for 20 years, barring an act of God, but after that point, the next time it needs to be replaced, either you could renew your donation or we'll offer that location to someone else. So I think that's about all I had on the topic.
Thank you, Director Evans. Commissioners, Commissioner Gorman.
Thank you. Have we talked to families that have current bench plaques about how they feel about the policy?
We have not reached out to anyone exterior to this yet.
Just on my own curiosity, it's a very emotional decision for a lot of people, so I don't want us to move too swiftly without that consideration. But I totally understand. Similar problem when I was in higher education. Everybody really wanted to donate to scholarships, but the way higher ed is funded, $200 scholarship doesn't mean as much as it did before. I think it's awesome that we have so many people particularly interested in a legacy gift at Pure Marquette, but yeah, I would definitely be willing to help get creative about how can we still honor a legacy with some kind of presence there, but yeah, we can't have a bench every inch of the beach. We could, but I don't think we're interested in that, so. Oh, also, okay, is there a difference between benches that we have in the city in honor of anyone and like opportunities a community foundation might have for legacy gifts like do we work with a community foundation, or is it separate, or should we work with a community foundation?
Most of the time for benches and small things like that, we've worked independent of the community foundation.
Okay. There might be, I don't know, I'd be curious, happy to facilitate a conversation if there's expertise there, or identification
Sure.
of other options there, I'd happy to be part of that conversation too.
Yeah, in that same vein, I think it would be, as we're exploring this policy, which I think is helpful to have a policy,
Totally.
outlining how people can donate, what are the parameters, what's the timeline, so it's fully understood going into it. 'Cause I suspect a lot of folks that have donated over the years had expected it to be essentially in perpetuity. So it's good to have a policy, but I think it would be also helpful if we had the option to have a lasting legacy or something that was going to be existing in perpetuity. And that's where I think it would be helpful to have a fund at the community foundation and the assistance of them at managing that. We have in years past, as you, as I'm sure our staff know, we put $1 million from our cemetery perpetual care fund into a designated fund at the community foundation because we knew we were going to need that money, and then we were trying to get better returns out of that fund at the foundation. So perhaps we have an opportunity to set up a perpetual care fund for these types of legacy gifts if the donor is wanting that extra commitment as well. I think it would just be nice to have. So I don't know what that looks like exactly, but if we can do some exploration and discussion with the potential partner like the community foundation of setting that up, I would be very intrigued and interested in that.
And we didn't. The policy is not on the agenda tomorrow, so we really intended to, set back and whatever we heard tonight, follow up on that, revisit this a month or two from now. So that's the exact kind of feedback we're looking for.
Manager Mike Sal.
I'm wondering too, with the recent conversation we've had about our playgrounds, if it makes sense to have a playground donation where, we could do a plaque of, this playground was funded by, different people. Because, I think a lot of people feel strongly about the need for playgrounds in our parks and how important they are in our neighborhoods. And that might be an opportunity to, make your mark on something and still have something in a park, but not necessarily be a bench.
Yeah.
I like that. Any other questions or remarks, commissioners?
Good.
All right. I think we're good. The one thing that I'm just kind of toying with, and I'm not firmly committed one way or another, but when you mentioned increasing the cost to fully recoup our staff time and investment in it so that the donor is covering everything, the equipment plus staff and all that, whereas before we were only expecting the donor to cover the equipment, not also staff. And I certainly understand us wanting to recoup staff when we have limited capacity. I guess it's swirling around my head whether to try to recoup 100% or if it's reasonable. If it's an amenity that's improving, our parks or improving our community, maybe there's a shared, we're defraying half the cost where we expect them, or 75. I'm just swirling around my head thinking right now. I'm not committed one way or another, but I think there's some level of rationale that we have a shared cost if it's enhancing and bettering our community.
We can research some other municipalities and see if we can find some guidance that somebody maybe has already figured out on that. So
All right.
we can find out. But yeah.
Excellent.
I have a related question.
Yeah.
And this is coming from
Commissioner Berman.
I feel like every time I walk through Hackley Park, I'm like, oh, there's a memorial tree that I didn't notice before. And some of them are quite old. Do we have any cataloged history of this person? I don't know. This is in memory of this person who
Would be nice.
I think it'd be cool. And maybe as someone who works in estate planning and such, if there's already a tree in a memorial of somebody that falls in line with somebody who's trying to honor a legacy that's similar, could that help support, I don't know, that tree staying in the park? I'm just fascinated, I swear. Every time I walk through the park, I'm like, oh, I wonder who that person was.
I don't know if we have that or not. I can
that
check
sounds
with
like a fun,
our
passionate
tree planting staff. I know they were looking, they budgeted to buy some software this year that will let them use our GIS database to track all the trees that they plant, just because they have to do grant reporting on that. So that would be, if there was a record of that would be pretty easy to import into that database and be like, hey, so-and-so donated this tree in 1961 or whatever it was. And,
That'd be neat. Manager Mike Sell.
I think street trees would be another really great thing for people to donate toward.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
And I just met with a gentleman last week who's part of Lads Reforestation, and he, Andrew Prater. I think some of your staff members have talked with him, and I'm sure some of the commissioners have spoken with him. He's very interested in planting more trees, and particularly some like ancient genetics, trying to preserve the the genetics of some of the ancient trees.
Okay.
And planting them here, and not only to improve ecology and sustainability, but also as a form of tourism. So if the potential opportunities for partnership where people were wanting to donate to fund some of his plantings. I mean, he's growing these and then taking clones of them and producing more and more. But maybe there's an opportunity for people to donate some of those plantings, and then we got a database of them, and we know where they're at, and people can check them out. So yeah, some neat opportunities.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Next up, we got ARP Infill Housing Working Cash Fund Request. And I'm sorry, Director Evans. One more thing I took a note of. If we could just flesh out and provide some descriptor or more information as to what an act of God entails.
Okay.
If we're going to say
Did we specify that in there or no?
It just says act
Just
of
said
God.
it, okay.
So if we could maybe give some clarity as to what that entails, I think that would be helpful in the policy.
Can do.
I presume it's like the equivalent of a force majeure or weather event or something. But clarity would be helpful. All right. Development Services Director Jake Ekholm. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
How are we doing? So the item I have before you is pretty straightforward. It's an interfund transfer. I really wanted to take an opportunity to bring it to a work session tonight just to kind of explain why I think it's necessary, why I'd like to do it now before it's like an emergency. But so a little bit of context. As you know, we have 2 active ARP agreements out there, Briggs Builders and West Urban Properties. We've submitted a priority-related investment application to the Community Foundation to double up our ARP money for Briggs Builders because they've had a difficulty getting traditional financing just because of the nature of their business. And so with that, we currently have one operator that is building at a pretty high capacity. Part of the reason that they're building at such a high capacity on the ARP side is that due to cost of building against rental ability to fetch rents, they're not currently building any new pilot houses until they get the ARP program done. So that means that all of their crews are focused pretty much on ARP, and that has caused them to move pretty quickly. And we actually have 18 houses in process right now, which is half or just over half of what we projected to build with West Urban. The challenge that I see us running into probably in the next 90 days, give or take, plus minus, so pretty much through the building season, and they build all year, but through the prime building season and selling season, importantly, because all those ARP houses are for sale, is that we're going to end up with all of our money in inventory. And so we're going to run into a problem where we don't have money to start the next ones of the 30 to 35 houses because we're waiting on the ones at the back end of the building project to sell. And so we only have 2 listed right now, but we have 18 in process. So of 18, 2 of them are actually C of O and ready to sell. So the solution that I've kind of brainstormed with the developers, and that I want to make this clear, this would be for both Briggs Builders and West Urban in the event that they need it to draw on. My hope is to not need it at all. It just depends on rate of sale. I think we're going to be, we put the 2 first houses at cost of construction, but we think we're going to be lowering those this week. We're going to talk to our realtor about that, just because the interest rate environment is pricing out builders or potential buyers, particularly working to middle class potential buyers, which is exactly who we're targeting. So that makes it a little more difficult on us when we're really trying to, sell these homes at attainable rates. I mean, I don't think there's another city in the state of Michigan that I'm aware of where you can get like a new construction house and not necessarily be an income restricted individual for like $215,000 to $220,000. We might be the only people doing that. I don't know. But so given that fact, what I'm asking for is an interfund transfer to the Public Improvement Fund from the general fund reserves. So the Public Improvement Fund lacks the adequate resources to operate as a cash cash on hand fund for this project because it only has about $153,000 available unrestricted in it right now. The general fund is sitting at somewhere, I think, around $9.5 million, give or take, and I think the majority of that being unrestricted. So the process would be we would make the interfund loan from the general fund to the public improvement fund, which is where any profits from those art builds is going to go after they're done. And then in the event that we do end up in this problem where we have houses listed but we don't have closings, which would generate the revenue to start the next house, we can draw on that $1 million, which is enough to start 4 to 5 homes, which should give us plenty of cushion as we move through the program. At the end of both art programs, the $1 million would be taken off the top of any monies generated from those homes and given back to the general fund, and the remainder, which would be far more than $153,000, will remain in the public improvement fund. So really, I'm just trying to head off a potential cash on hand issue that I foresee, and it's pretty straightforward. We wouldn't need to make a budget amendment unless we actually realized expenditures out of that money. Other than that, it's just an interfund transfer.
Commissioners, questions? Comments? Yes, Vice Mayor German.
Thank you, Director Eckham. I know we had some conversations about how to try to better assist these builders, especially talking with the Briggs construction builders group, and due to the difficulties raising those funds, I think it's a good move. I can support this, and being fair and equitable to try to make sure the playing field is level. I'm not saying that we're not doing that with West Urban either, but he's pretty much in a better situation for his manpower and revenue. So I could see, supporting this. Yep.
And yeah, thank you for that point, Vice Mayor. And to that point, the city is applying to be the recipient of that PRI from the foundation, so we would effectively have all city responsible dollars into the Briggs Builders arrangement, which is outside of what we originally intended for the art program. But we've run into trouble with that art program in the sense that it really works better for well-capitalized builders. But we've really been intentional about trying to bring in local, smaller builders to be able to participate in our infill housing program. So, and that's not, that was not deliberate. It's just one of those situations where you don't know it while you're building the program, and then you find out because, the commercial lending environment is outside of our control. And so now we're trying to control the things we can by doing this PRI.
I think it's a good move. Yep. Good job.
Yeah, and we move into future phases as we get beyond this initial ARP infill housing program, and we want to recycle and keep it going and perhaps establish a dedicated affordable housing fund and program. Then we can revamp or look how we can tweak what lessons learned from this initial phase and how we can overhaul it and make it better. Make it easier for the city and developers, and serve our community best.
That's very well said. So I want to kind of just use this as an opportunity to give a short update as to what we see middle long term. So next 2 years to 5 years. So we're contracted with Bowen National Research for a 5-year housing needs assessment. We can already see a little bit of softening in the market within the city limits. I can pull some MLS data from some realty partners, and it shows there's still strong sellers market, but it's softening. And I think that's shown. And we may have hit our inflationary ceiling on list prices. We try to just sell at construction rates, which are higher than they've ever been, and we're going to have to bring that down a touch. So I think we're kind of finding what can be tolerated in this market as to what people can pay for a house in our city, and that's going to help us a lot to determine, okay, how many infill single family or duplex units in a residential neighborhood by neighborhood can we infill per year? What's our absorption rate is what we call that. And so once we do establish like a fund saying, okay, we've got this pot of money in public improvement, it's very healthy now. What do we want to do with that? Does it make sense for us to continue to build at the rate we're doing? Is there a market for those homes where we're going to be able to recover a loss in brownfield? Or, is the market softened to the point where it's not necessarily tenable in the way we've done it before, and we have to get creative and come up with something new? We're looking at all kinds of ideas. We're looking at community land trust options. We're looking at perpetual affordable housing funds. We're trying to find out what the answer is to make sure that working families and folks that are in that low to mod income range, and then middle class families have new housing stock options in the city because we know we have a shortage. But it's going to look different as the market evolves and the interest rate environment changes, so we have to kind of be reactive to that.
All right, commissioners, any additional questions or comments at this time? All right,
Cool.
Thank you, Director Ekholm.
Thank you.
All right, before we go to public comment, is there any other business that commissioners would like to address at this time? No? All right, public comment. And so if anyone would like to speak, you can have up to 3 minutes to give your remarks. We won't necessarily have answers for you right off the bat, but we can connect you with the proper resources if need be. So just please provide your name and welcome from the Beechwood Bluffton neighborhood.
My name is Cindy Backstrom. I live at 3415 Fulton. And I just want to start off by saying I really have appreciated really everything that the city has done to increase tourism. And I see it in my neighborhood, obviously, where I live. And I think sometimes we can be viewed as being negative about those things, and it's really not a negative thing that I'm talking about today. I just want to address some things that concern me. And my concern is the safety on the beach. We have this beautiful beach. We've attracted all these people to this beach, and we have this light system that's been installed. And I ride my bike or I walk that area every single day. I've lived in that area as a married person for 48 years. My husband grew up in that area. Our kids were lifeguards. I know where these lights are. For me personally, I don't think they're very visible. I think it's really kind of the placement of them, I think, is okay. I just think they need to be bigger. I know where they are, and I have a hard time seeing them. I mean, I know where those lights are. So that's a concern. We've heard a lot of drownings, not so much here, but Grand Haven we hear. We live on the channel, so we hear the Coast Guard helicopter. I really don't like hearing that because I know it's bad news for a family. We have people that come in from out of state to see this beautiful beach that we have. I just want to make sure that they understand what they're entering into. My concern. I know back in the day, we used to have flags that flew. We had lifeguards. Our daughter was a lifeguard down there. So I know I hope I'm not sounding like I'm complaining, but so a solution that I am suggesting is that we maintain the lighting system, but they need to be bigger. I mean, I walked down there today and I'm like, this light is, I mean, seriously, like this big around. And then the signs that explain the meaning of the lights, they are in places that I think are really difficult for people to actually see. So they're on the gates. You know, we have those gates down there coming from Sherman. You're entering a paid parking area, which that sign is pretty large, but then the lighting sign is underneath that, which is very small. I think it would be nice if we could have some sort of maybe light there that kind of was flashing, kind of warning people coming in. And same when coming in on Lakeshore Drive, that would be helpful. So they go, what's that red light? Here's the explanation. And then I know it's 3 minutes. I think it goes by fast, so I just want to make sure I say everything. I think that's it. I mean, I just really want to, say that I do appreciate it. I mean, it's a short-lived season for us all. Yes, we sometimes go, I just want to get home, but it's nice to see that people are enjoying it, taking advantage of it. I just want to make sure that we're keeping these people safe. And I think we can do that with some improvements in the things that we already have in place. I think that's kind of what... This is my sister. She's going to talk about some other things, but I said I will talk about the lights. So thank you for listening, and that's my thing.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Mrs. Backstrom, for joining us tonight and sharing your care and your concern.
And hi, I'm Chris Adams. I live across the street from her at 3420 Fulton, and I have just a couple of things. We're both avid bike riders, so one of my big concerns is what is the status of a bike lane down at Pure Marquette. And also, we have all signs up for no dogs on the beach. Who actually enforces that? because I see dogs on the beach all the time. I have people that come in and go to the beach and they say, yeah, we had 3 families right next to us that all had dogs on the beach. And also wanted to know what the status of Cruzy Park is, as far as, I know that the staircase going down has been blocked off. It's inaccessible apparently. But the park is open. And is it still a dog park? And also, you know, where the curve is when you approach the lake, there used to be a sign there, like to the left was the dog beach, and it was all set up and marked, and they haven't done they didn't do any of that this year. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about, was my concern about what the status of a bike lane is, and who enforces dogs being on the beach, and what the status of Cruzy Park. Is there any thoughts about improvement or replacing or fixing the staircase there? So,
All right.
that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Adam. In terms of enforcement, you could speak with our Captain Rush over there. After the meeting, he can just speak to how police enforce. And I know in the non-summer season, it's a little bit more lax, at least. In the summer season, on our proper beach, we're not supposed to be having dogs on the beach. That's why we have the designated dog beach, Cruise Park, which is still technically open, but challenging accessibility because of the high water had ripped out the boardwalk going down to it. We are very much interested in bringing that back, and we had last fall some public input sessions as to which. We had a few different styles or visions as to how we would do that, coalesced around one. We were trying to get grants. Director Evans or our park supervisor, Matt Schwemmen over there, might be able to give more insights in terms of Cruzy Park, where we're at, where we plan on going. And then, we'll speak to Cruzy Park first.
Cruzy Park, we met with Chris Willis and a group from BVNA probably 2 weeks ago. Talked through it. We've been kind of in a holding pattern. The state had designated something like $14.3 million in their budget for high water, damage caused by high water. They have not released any of those dollars or told us how that grant program is going to be accessible. So we've kind of been waiting our time for that, because that feels like the perfect project for it. In the interim, we're going to have to remove a couple more sections of the stairs that are really starting to get eroded, and just keep them from falling down and getting into the lake. But that's really the plan there, Cruzy. It is still a dog park. Repairs hopefully in the works once we can get the money lined up. And until then, it'll continue to be a little bit challenging accessibility, because you got to climb the dune to get down. In the Pure Marquette Boardwalk, they completed their survey work in late June, early July. We have a meeting with them next week to kind of go over their first round of the design iteration on that project. So it's still moving forward through kind of engineering and preliminary planning, and we'll have to come back to this board when we get something biddable and have a plan of what we can build when.
Are you talking about the bike path, or what are you talking about?
I'm talking about the boardwalk / expanded parking work that goes from like the kite shack up to the bathhouse building.
Oh, okay.
The new or expanded shared use path.
Shared use path.
There wouldn't be a dedicated bike lane, but it would accommodate bike traffic as well.
People walking and bikers on the same path.
On that shared use path, yeah.
But plenty of width for them to coexist.
Yeah. And at one point, and it's still to be determined at one point, I was talking about like separating them and having directional arrows, and so it was going to be kind of managed. So that's all kind of still to be determined exactly how that shared youth path.
I know there's places where they have shared paths, but they're actually marked.
One side is for walking and the other side is for biking.
Can you speak to the signage when you come around that curb that previously had directed folks, here's the dog beach over this way, this is non-dog beach over this way? Is it just because, and I haven't been by there recently, so I don't know what the status is that all blocked off right now? It's not
I don't honestly
Easily
remember
accessible?
the signing myself, so I'm gonna have to talk with somebody else at the Parks Department that's been there longer than me.
Okay.
I know at the meeting we had for Cruzy Park, one of the things that BB&A mentioned was there used to be a sign right as you came down the stairs that said like public beach one way, dog beach the other way, and I'm sure that got removed or washed away with the high water, and they asked for that one to go back. But I don't recall one up at Cruzy if it was, or at the curb if it was the same kind of thing, or so. But yeah, there is still quite a drop off there at the end of those parking spaces, so the access isn't the greatest there at the curb either. The Army Corps is still dredging, still filling. We're hoping they're going to get some more sand in there, and that's going to kind of alleviate that and improve that area too. But yeah, I will follow up on the other sign. I don't remember one there personally. So.
Okay. Yeah, as that accessibility improves there, we get more of a normal beach area again there. I personally see the value in having the signage saying dog beach this way, and this also adds another level of accessibility. If people can't park and then find the way down there, they can come around the other way, and then it also helps reinforce folks that are using what people call it different names, Lake Michigan Park, just west of the filtration plant. Helps reinforce that this is not a dog beach area here, but the dog beach is that way.
Am I able to say anything else? I have one other thing I want to say. If I'm over.
Certainly.
Okay. Just real quick. The other thing I wanted to say was, down at the beach right now, and I don't really recall this in the past too much because back in the day, there was a designated swim area. Okay, so lifeguards were here, this is where people swam. So now because we don't have that, what we are seeing a lot of on Muskegon Lake and Lake Michigan are people that have boat access coming up and pulling up onto the beach with their Sea-Doos or in their boats and stuff. So the problem for me with that, honestly, is safety again. Our kids grew up really swimming in Muskegon Lake because that's where we live. And we had rented a pontoon a couple weeks ago, and we got on the pontoon down there. We kept it out, got on it. To come back, we couldn't even offload because there were so many boats that were pulled up onto that shoreline. So my concern is, obviously, swimmers. People are coming into a swimming area, pulling a boat up or a jet ski. Is there any way to address that? Like, I know signs are signs, people are going to read them and ignore them, I understand that, but I just feel like if we had something that kind of addressed that, at least, if someone was walking by, you could say, you're really not supposed to have your boat pulled up here. Right now, we got nothing. We're just like, and for me too, it's kind of like the haves and the have-nots. Okay, if I don't have a boat, this is how I get into the water. You get the whole lake. You can dive off your boat and stuff, and now you're going to pull it up and limit my access to getting into the water. And I just feel like I don't know, I don't think we want to be about that. I think we want to be more inclusive. Everybody feel like this is their beach too. It's not just for a certain group of people.
Absolutely. We don't want those watercrafts monopolizing our shoreline, so that our residents and visitors can enjoy the shoreline in Lake Michigan as well. If you do see them launching from there, that is a definite no-no.
Launching,
and
just pulling up.
Yeah.
This is a big part. Then it's a big party, and it's people are in the water, and I've seen like people are in the water and people coming up with their boats, and people that are swimming are like, oh, someone's coming in. I just think we need to have, and I don't know what that looks like or how we do it, but I think it is, like I said, you get more and more people who don't live around here, who just don't want to go to.
Yep, we'll need to explore how to mitigate that and handle that so that everyone can enjoy our shoreline in Lake Michigan. I'm of the same mind as you, as I'd love to bring lifeguards back. We still need to further explore them, find a way. But at the same time, lifeguards are not the panacea. I don't necessarily think we can afford to have them across the entirety of our Lake Michigan shoreline. We get a lot, but it would be nice to have a designated area where we could have, a lifeguard and find a way to do that. But while realizing we're not going to have lifeguards during red flag conditions, they're not going to be there to save people in the most dangerous conditions, but they're there as an added support and safety in normal-ish weather and water conditions. And maybe that's an opportunity that we can partner with local businesses as well, where they're sponsoring the lifeguard. maybe that's one way to help defray that cost. Granted, we do have paid parking revenues, but I hear whenever there's a new need, a new want, I hear from folks in the community, use paid parking revenue for that. And so that money's been spent like 10 times over with all the different needs and wants. But I certainly would be interested in trying to revive Lifeguard personally. And ultimately, that is a commission decision as to whether or not allocate resources, and if it's directly from us, using paid parking, general fund, or potentially partnering with other businesses with sponsorships. And then I know that our park supervisor, Matt Schwemmen, is also working on different measures to improve the safety at Pier Marquette and at our beach. And so that's something that he's very much interested in. I don't know if you want to share anything right now on that subject, or you're welcome to. He provides some helpful insights to the commission, and he's actively working on that issue with other municipalities and other communities on general safety.
A little bit about my background. I come over from the state parks. I was a part of the water safety committee almost 2 or 3 years, but then also just a member of a safety committee for a long time. Working with our Swim Smart system that you had mentioned, we want to kind of expand on that. We just met with the owner of that company. They've just partnered recently with an organization out of Holland that does something similar to when you're on college campuses. You'll notice those large blue ballards that are around for safety. Folks can tap into those. So they are hoping to expand to a system similar to that and work with the company. And we think there's a lot of value there to add to what we currently have, and to kind of, so when folks do show up to our beaches, they see something that they
Thank you. All right. Anyone else in the public wish to give comment? No. All right then. Commissioners, I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we got a motion by Commissioner Emery, supported by Vice Mayor German, to adjourn. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. We are adjourned. Take care. Be well.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.